Point Lobos State Natural Reserve is one of the best state parks in California. This park at the north end of Big Sur protects multiple marine areas, miles of coastal trails, and a stunning grove of Monterey cypress trees. It's one of those parks you'll want to go back to time and time again while in California. On a recent trip to the area, I spent a half day hiking some of my favorite trails in the park to share them with you. Here's all the information on this beautiful part of California's coast. On my last visit to the area, I stayed in Monterey, and it's about a 15-minute drive to Point Lobos. If you're going on a weekend or during a holiday, you definitely want to get here early as the parking lot often fills up pretty quickly. If the parking lot fills up, then you have to walk in from the road, and it adds a lot of miles, especially to get to some of the trails that we're talking about here. After paying the day use fee, I drove to my first trail, which was the Cypress Grove Trail. Today we're about 15 minutes south of Monterey in Point Lobos State Natural Reserve, and we're going to hike a couple of the most popular trails in the park. Two trails lead from this parking lot, but we're taking the Cypress Grove Trail. None of these trails are particularly long. This first one is right around a mile round trip. The whole reserve is around 400 acres, and you can do a trail that takes you around the entire outskirts of the park, and that's about 6 miles long. That's also a great option if you want to see more than we're seeing on just these 3 smaller trails. From here, the trail heads into the Allen Memorial Grove, and it's a loop that brings you back to this point. The Allen Memorial Grove is named after the Allen family, which sold most of the land to the park in the 1930s, and then later donated the 15 acres which the grove sits on. The 2 trails that we're going out on today are 2 of the best 1-mile trails you can do in all of California. Look at these coastal views plus the groves we get to see. The Monterey cypress are only naturally found in 2 places, both of them near Carmel and one of them being Point Lobos. It's pretty cool to see these incredible trees with the beautiful landscape that surrounds them. After coming through that grove, this is the first viewpoint you get to on the trail. As the trail reaches the point, you leave the Cypress Grove behind for a little bit, and there's 3 or 4 different viewpoints that give you views out towards the Monterey Bay. Plan to give yourself a lot more time than you think you'd need for a 1-mile trail, as it's one of those places that you just want to sit on a rock and look out and enjoy everything. And here is the second viewpoint. As you're walking between the viewpoints, the trail's right along the coastal bluffs with some rock steps that you can use to navigate. As you leave the viewpoints behind and walk back into the Cypress Grove, note the red-orange color on many of the trees. The ranger told me that this is from a specific algae that grows on the trees and gives it the unique color. You can see a lot of the trees in this grove have that unique red bark on them. It's interesting that it's basically only facing one direction though. It's not wrapped around the tree branches. It's so cool to be able to have the Cypress Grove on one side of you and amazing coastal views on the other side of you. This trail is just incredible. Be sure you plan some time. It's only a mile, but you're gonna want to stop a lot. Also, this park's amazing in the morning. First, you don't have to fight for parking, and second, you get all this nice light coming in through the trees. There's one more overlook before we start heading inland. It's out there. When you get to these overlooks on the backside, there's some amazing photo opportunities as you're looking through the trees out towards the beautiful cove. Saying goodbye to the last ocean viewpoint for this trail and starting to head back. So I guess I was wrong. There's one more viewpoint. Wow, look at that. So cool to see the trees just growing on the side of that rock. When you leave this section, you'll be arriving at the end of the loop. Alright, we made it back to where we started the loop. I spent about 45 minutes to an hour back there, even though it's super short. The views are just incredible and it's such an amazing trail. But now we are heading on to the next trail. Something you definitely want to note about this park is that there's not a lot of parking and it's very popular, so get here early if you want to get a spot. From the same parking area as the Cypress Grove Trail, there's another trail, which is the Seal Overlook Trail. I heard some seals, so we're gonna go look at that one as well. Sea Lion Point Trail. Note that this is a wheelchair accessible trail. It's one of 2 in the park, I think, that are wheelchair accessible. There's the Cypress Grove Trail right there that we were out on. Now we're on the other side of the water. This trail is short at less than a half-mile round trip. While it's not as beautiful as the first one, there's really no reason not to do it since it leaves from the same parking lot. Plus it takes you out to an amazing overlook of a cove that's down below you. On previous trips I've seen seals and sea lion here, but on this trip I didn't see any in the cove. This is also a nice trail to take your time on, as there's multiple benches where you can just sit and relax looking out over the ocean. After going to the overlooks, this trail kind of loops back around to the parking area. And then we are heading over there for our last trail. If you're doing the full loop, you can actually just continue on from here and walk all the way to the China Cove Trail. Alright, we're driving on to the next parking lot for the Bird Island Trail, which is one of my favorite trails in the park. Just the drive from one parking lot to the next is beautiful in Point Lobos, and I even saw some deer along the road. Alright, we made it to the parking area for Bird Island. As you can see, not much parking here either, so just know that when you're visiting here, the parking is very limited. The Bird Island Trail has a half-mile wheelchair accessible. The ADA part of this trail gains elevation on these long switchbacks. There's also stairs if you don't want to go up the ADA switchbacks that just take you to the same spot. This trail is my favorite in the park as it's less than a mile round trip as well and has so many beautiful views. This is the China Cove area of the trail, well, right over there, but that's one of the other amazing parts of this trail. The beginning of this path takes you along an elevated trail which looks down on the cove below and has multiple benches. There's a couple seals down there. This isn't as many as I've seen before, but every time I've been on this trail I have seen seals in the cove. How do you beat that spot? I would definitely be there if I was a seal as well. The trail then heads around the backside of a small hill, and there's a path down to the beach below if you want to spend the day at the beach, or you can continue on to see Bird Rock. So one of the coolest parts about this trail is actually right here, but we're not going to see it until we get up there. There it is, that awesome little arch right there. So cool. The arch sits out in the water and is about 25 to 30 feet tall. It's really a great spot for photography in Point Lobos. So that's Bird Rock right out there. There's nothing on it. I'll put up some pictures of last time I was here though and the amount of birds that were here. It was crazy. But yeah, even without the birds, seeing the arch and China Grove, this is still an incredible trail in Point Lobos. The trail's an out and back, so after seeing Bird Rock, you just go back the way you came. That's it for our time on the Bird Rock Trail. We're gonna go to one more viewpoint before heading out of the park. I was planning on ending this video with the last hike, but the Whaling Museum up there is open. So this is Whaler's Cove right in front of me. And then you can actually take a short little hike to another viewpoint and out to the Whaler Museum, which is what we're gonna do. Here's a 3D map of the underwater portion of where we're at right now. I spoke to a couple people who were coming out of the water and told me that this is one of the best places for scuba diving along the California coast. I don't do that myself, but definitely let me know if you have in the comments. This is kind of a roundabout way to get there as it's right along the road, but why would you miss another opportunity to see more amazing views? This is another less than half-mile trail in the park. It first heads around a short loop that gives you views of the Whaler's Cove and then out towards the Monterey Bay. After that short little loop, now we're heading up and around. There's Whaler's Cove below us. You can see how much elevation we've gained. From here, the trail heads inland as it goes towards the museum. We've made it to the museum. The museum was staffed by a docent when I was there who was able to answer all the questions I had about the area's history and whaling. This historic cabin was built in the 1850s and it's one of a dozen cabins that were situated around the cove. Inside you can learn about the abalone and whaling industry and about the people who lived in the area. Outside of the cabin you can see a lot of the tools that were used in whaling. These are whale bones that washed ashore in this area. Humpback and 2 gray whales. The second small building talks all about the whalers and how profitable the industry was until kerosene oil was found and it became much cheaper to use that. So right where the parking lot was, where we parked, this is where the whale station was in the mid-1800s. There were shore stations up and down the coast in the early 1900s. Saying goodbye to the whaling station and making our way back to the parking lot. That ends our time at Point Lobos. Hopefully you enjoyed going on this adventure with me. This is a spot along the California coast you do not want to miss. We will see you on the next video.